Red Bull didn't need to worry about their drivers since one vehicle started on the pole and the other was in position 15 on the grid. Right. Verstappen only needed to finish second and had 50 laps to achieve it, which sounds like a challenge. Perez would have an easy time winning. Things started to get a touch heated as Verstappen drove the RB19 rocket ship to second position in 25 circuits and exerted all of his force to oust Perez from the lead. All of this culminated in an exchange that appears to have ended their relationship over the final circuits of the race. This might have cost Red Bull and the drivers significant points if they had pushed their vehicles above their limits. Therefore, Perez's race engineer Bird set a goal lap time of 1 minute and 33 seconds in order to keep everyone in the vehicles in control. He inquired, "What time is Max doing?" Bird replied, 1 minute and 32.6 seconds. He questioned, "So why are you instructing me to do 1 minute 33 seconds? We are advancing without cause." There didn't seem to be much at risk because Red Bull was already traveling 1-2 kilometers ahead of the competition. The fact that a Formula One team's cars are competing one after the other is not unusual, but this Perez-Verstappen internal conflict has a special edge. Could this spell the beginning of the end for this alliance? After 2 races, Verstappen has already stated that the championship seems like it's between our 2 cars because of Red Bull's significant advantage, which appeared to be approximately 1 second per lap in Jeddah. Because of this, neither can afford to give anything to the other, and Perez in particular cannot afford to let Verstappen pass while he started in the 15th position on the grid, which would further entrench his internal dominance inside the team. Verstappen's driveshaft issue in Q2 had forced him to start from 15th. But here in Jeddah, a track with obstacles where he often excels, he understood he could prove to the team his worth. But things weren't always easy. "We were lucky to be so far ahead in Bahrain," explained Perez, "because otherwise, if we had to push to the end, we probably wouldn't have made the end. So there is a lot of reliability concerns at the moment that hopefully don't hit us anytime soon." A vibration from behind him could be felt during the race. Max had the same option. During the second leg of the race, it was present in both scenarios. Perez's demand, then, wasn't simply to make sure he defeated his teammate. It was also an earnest request to explain why we were risking a non-finish in order to compete against one another. "You need to call Max off," was the message he left without saying anything. This is Red Bull, though. It has no intention of pleading with Max Verstappen to withdraw. In the end, Max was the one who chose. "I did the calculations, and I wouldn't have been able to close that gap to the end with only 10 laps left. So at one point, it's something more important to just settle for a second and not, have an issue with the car." The gap was 4.3 seconds with 10 laps to go. Max had benefited from the lap 17 safety car for Lance Stroll's broken down Aston Martin. Verstappen was in an excellent position to overtake George Russell's Mercedes and Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin as a result, negating the majority of his lost time. After dealing with them, he was only 5 seconds behind Sergio and the pit stops were all over. Even without any team assistance, it appeared as though Max would be able to close the deficit and win at this point in the race. But no, neither here nor now. Perez had a strong work ethic, and much like in Bahrain, his speed had been close to Verstappen's throughout the entire weekend. He felt a sense of focused purpose the entire weekend, knowing that a world championship was at stake. He therefore gave it his all up front. Verstappen, in contrast, had handled the early laps gently, moving up just a few spots while avoiding trouble, just like he had in the early laps of races last year from pitiful grid positions in Hungary and Belgium. He observed that the car was excessively jerky upon entry, fearing that something might be wrong. When it was determined that it was simply a result of the traffic congestion and its proximity to the walls, he got to work, dispatching the 2 Haas cars. Zhou Guanyu's Alfa Romeo, Pierre Gasly's Alpine, and Charles Leclerc, who had been given a grid penalty, before bringing the Ferrari in to switch out the soft tires for hard ones. Lewis said of the speed difference, "I've never seen anything like that before." Verstappen's next victim was Hamilton, who profited from a simple DRS maneuver. Due to both Ferraris and Esteban Ocon's Alpine halting before Verstappen needed to pass them, the Dutch driver moved up to 4th place on lap 16, but he was still 22 seconds off the lead and 9 seconds behind Russell in 3rd. At that moment, when the safety car was used for what appeared to be a VSC-type incident and everyone pitted for hard tires, Verstappen benefited from Stroll and race management. When the safety car came back, there were 3/5 of the race left, and Perez was just a few seconds ahead. Max had advanced to 2nd place on the 25th lap, and Perez was not about to allow him to get any closer. Now that they were both on the unforgiving hard tire, they started fighting. Even at his absolute best, Max Verstappen needed 12 laps to reduce the gap from 5.4 seconds to 4.3 seconds. When they traded fastest laps, Perez pushed himself just as hard, leaving the rest of the field in the dust. On lap 38, Verstappen heard the sound, a high-pitched shrieking from the rear, and a different balance off throttle. Driveshaft failure, perhaps. A large group of engineers and analysts at the garage and at Milton Keynes examined every parameter on the data once he radioed it in. Nothing was showing up. Simply take it home, Max was instructed. He decided that it would be better to try again and fail to catch Perez than to do that. Soon after, Perez experienced a vibration as well, and his brake pedal was extended. This was also inspected and found to be okay. Perez maintained his pleading while the fight went on. Engineer Gianpiero Lambiase instructs his driver to achieve a goal time that is far slower than what he is accomplishing over the radio in a rerun of the Bahrain race. Even the lap time was the same, 33.0 max. Max, confirmed 33, comes next. The rare track constraints notice, the purple sector timings, and Verstappen's radio silence are all still in effect. He was being pushed just as hard as that by Perez. Max, please, 330, he then pleaded. Why are we pressing so hard? Perez reiterated. They couldn't stop Max from moving, which was the unspoken answer. When Max finally followed Lambiase's advice with 4 laps remaining after performing a mental calculation, Perez's victory was all but certain. But Max still needed to communicate a problem to his engineer. What's the quickest lap? He said to break the radio comm. Max got a reply that read, we're not bothered about it right now. However, I am. Not the least of which is that Perez would have lost the championship lead if it weren't for him. Verstappen accomplished it on the final lap, and with that, Red Bull managed to score another 1-2, but this time it cost the team a lot more, endangered certain car parts, and strained relations between the drivers. And to make matters worse, one Red Bull driver feels deceived. Sergio Perez wants to inquire into the circumstances that led to him losing the fastest lap point because he feels he was given different information than Red Bull Formula One teammate Max Verstappen. The team's final period appeared to be far more strained than they had anticipated. I asked what the fastest lap was with a few laps to go, Verstappen said. We were first of all free to race, and of course we had a target lap time to the end, but you know, there's a point on the line. It was the same also in Bahrain, it got asked. Especially when it's just between the two cars, I think it's quite normal that you ask for what the fastest lap is. Verstappen's late effort for the quickest lap had prevented Perez from taking the championship lead in Jeddah, and he appeared caught off guard by what had transpired. Verstappen's fastest lap in the cooling room before to the podium caught his attention, and he asked him what orders he had received. 2 laps from the end, they told me to keep a certain pace. They told me I had the fastest lap and to keep the pace, a certain pace, Perez said in the subsequent press conference. Although the communication was the same to Max, so it's something we need to review. Because I certainly got different information, and I just couldn't push there in the end. What do you think, then? Is this going to be the final time we see Max and Chico together? As the level of stress rises with each race. If things continue this way, the season will be exciting. Please share your opinions in the section below. We'll see you in the following video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to remain current on all the newest F1 news. I appreciate you coming.